Welcome to Gig Harbor. Have you been thinking about moving to the area, but you're not quite sure if you can afford it? Well, this video is for you. Today, I'm gonna break down the real cost of living. From housing to taxes, groceries, utilities, I'll tell you where people are surprised and more. I work with people moving from out of state to this area every week, and these are some of the exact questions they ask. Come on in. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Husby. I'm a mom, a realtor, and a local community connector. And for those of you that also don't know, I run a Facebook group called What's Good Gig Harbor, where you can join and find out all the details of what's going on in and around the harbor. So if you haven't joined already, hop on and join our group. So let's dive in and talk about the cost of living in Gig Harbor. I have a family of 4, so I'm going to be coming from that point of view. Let's first start out big picture. Is Gig Harbor expensive to live in? Well, in relation to Seattle and Bellevue, it's not. However, Gig Harbor as a whole is not cheap. When comparing Washington to other states in the national average, Washington state itself is more expensive to live in. And Gig Harbor, in relation to the other places in Washington to live in, is more expensive as well. But what you're getting for that higher price tag is that small town charm, water access, the slower pace of life, and that sense of community. So the first topic we'll talk about is housing costs, which is most people's biggest expense. The median in Washington state is $600,000. However, in Gig Harbor, we're looking at $850,000 and pushing up. Many areas, specifically the waterfront, starts around $1 million and goes up as well. Now keep in mind, this is the start of 2026, so the prices may change depending on what time you watch this. For entry-level homes, in Gig Harbor proper, we're looking around $600,000. However, if you cross the Purdy Spit into the Key Peninsula, you can find some entry-level homes at $400,000 and $500,000. For the entry-level homes, you will have to probably remodel. It won't be necessarily move-in ready, so expect some projects. Many will start their search in Gig Harbor and start to notice that as they go further out and beyond, that they get more for their money, whether it's acreage, amenity, or finishes. But just know the further out, the increase in your commute becomes. While Gig Harbor may have drawn you in, make sure to watch my video called Beyond the Harbor to get a better understanding of what other options there are around the harbor. While everything we were talking about has to do with single-family homes, we also have condos as an option. Those are primarily going to be located in Gig Harbor proper, and you're going to be seeing the range of starting around $500,000 all the way up to $900,000 for those. One thing to factor in with those is that you will have HOA dues, which could be hundreds of dollars a month to up to thousands of dollars a month. And that is certainly something you'll want to factor in. While the price point in Gig Harbor fluctuates a lot based off of neighborhoods and views and exactly where you live, I would say what's most important is for you to work with a local agent who understands the area and can work with the budget that you're working with. One of the things that I specialize in the most is helping people right size and find the right size home for them, whether they're relocating with a large family or they're now empty nesters and they need to downsize. Well, we can't talk about housing without talking about taxes. And one of the big draws about coming to Washington state is that we don't have a state income tax. But what we do have is property tax, which is fairly significant. There are 3 key things to note when it comes to Washington state property tax. First is that it's based on assessed value and levy rates. The second thing is it's reassessed annually. And third, when you buy a home, it often resets closer to market value. So what does that mean to you? That means that it will change every single year. You can also appeal it. And if it goes up, it could also go down. So let's put this in perspective. If you have a $900,000 home, then your property tax is relatively around $7,000. So what does that go to, you might ask? It actually, 90% of it goes to schools, city, fire, EMS, and social services. And you might want to note that even cash buyers have to pay for this. Now, if you purchase with cash, you can just pay straight to the state, or if you are financing, you can loop that into your mortgage. Something that a lot of out-of-state buyers don't realize is that in Washington state, when you go to sell a home, you actually have to pay excise tax, which is a significant amount and it's unavoidable. It is 1.78% of the sale of your home. And that is, like I said, a significant amount. For example, a $900,000 home will garner a $16,000 excise tax. Where does that money go, you might ask? This tax funds infrastructure and safety. This is why I think it's important to not just look at price, but look at total cost of ownership. The last tax that you have to consider is the sales tax. In Gig Harbor, it's 9.1%, and that applies to purchase goods from cars to groceries. So since we're talking about sales tax, let's talk about the daily life expenses. So the numbers that I'm going to be talking about today will be based off of my family of 4. So my weekly run to Costco is going to be $200 to $300 depending. And if I fill up my gas tank, which is a typical SUV size, it's going to be around $100. Now let's talk about dining out. If you're going to grab and goes like Chipotle or Panda Express, expect for a family of 4 to be about 60 to 80 bucks. If you want to go someplace nice and have a nice dinner with the kids, you're looking at about $200. Now, if you don't have the kids and you're adding in alcohol, you're pushing up to $300. In addition to consumer goods and daily expenses, we have utilities and monthly costs. Typical ranges for utilities: for electric, it's about $150 a month. And if you have gas, you're looking at $100 to $200 a month in the winter, and then much lower in the summertime. Water bills range from $40 to $80 a month. Garbage, $25 to $50 a month, depending on size. And internet, depending on what you want, could be $35 on up. And last is sewer/septic, because most houses are on septic around here. And although there's not a monthly bill with septic, you are required to have it pumped and inspected every few years. While these are all averages, it's important to know that 2 different homes could have varying costs. Things like age, insulation, heating systems can all play a part in that varying cost. So for example, if your house does not have gas, it doesn't mean that your electric bill is going to stay around $150. It could go up to compensate for not having gas. If you just have electric and you're trying to get efficient heating, some people will put in heat pumps where they get the efficient heating and AC as well. For many of my clients who have made the switch, they have noticed that their bill has reduced about 33%. So now let's move on from taxes and daily expenses to healthcare. Very similar to housing, it is not the cheapest in the country. However, it's relatively the same for Washington State. The higher price tag ultimately gives you access to quality clinics, fantastic specialists, and highly rated hospitals. So ultimately, it's not just expensive, but a great value. One of the great things about living in Gig Harbor is that we do have some great clinics and specialists in our area. And just across the bridge, we do have Trauma 2 hospitals, 2 of them, and you're right around the corner in Seattle with a Trauma 1 hospital. And in addition to those, Gig Harbor has our own hospital, St. Anthony's, which is a Trauma 3. Well, that covers the majority of the fixed costs. People have to ask themselves, is it worth it? One of the things I tell my clients is that it's really simply a question of supply and demand. Relative to other places in Washington State, Gig Harbor has been in high demand for a very long time. With the access to water, SeaTac, trails, slower pace of life, and community. People don't move here because it's cheap. They move here because it's worth it. While Gig Harbor is not the place for fantastic nightlife or year-round sunny weather, this certainly is a place for a lot of active retirees and people who want to raise a family. As a mom of a family of 4, I get it. It's about finding the right place to live. It's also about living comfortably and about taking care of everyone's needs. So reach out, let's have a discussion, and I'd be happy to help guide your direction.